Hey there, so for the first time I'd like to show you around our garden plot. This is a communal garden plot nearby where we live, and we have a 25 by 25 square plot, and we have something like maybe 60 or so pepper plants here. We're growing a lot of jalapeños, a lot of cayennes, but it's the end of August right now and the plants are just loaded with peppers here. The soil here is fantastic. Early on the plants did have a little bit of a struggle, but I think what they were doing was setting their roots really deep. It's been a dry summer for us, really hot, but the plants really haven't needed any irrigation. I think we've watered twice this entire season and they're still doing amazing. So that tells me that the roots are really deep. They're able to get water deeper down in the ground and they've flourished. So here are our two shishito plants that we planted in ground, and they're just loaded. We've already harvested a couple times here, but as you can see, it's just full of pods again. This is the perfect time to pick them. There's a beautiful example of a nice green shishito. There's a few turning red on this plant and the other one as well. The plants are really small, but man, they just pump out peppers, and these are just so good fried. We had a video on our YouTube channel, I hope you've seen it. Blistered shishitos. It's just one of the greatest side dishes of all time. Next door we have our scotch bonnets, which are much larger, and these got a bit of a late start out here. Our potted plants have already given us 2 rounds of ripe fruits, but these plants are looking great, nice and bushy, really healthy, no disease issues at all, and it's hard to tell with the sunshine and the harsh shadows, but there's tons of pods coming on here. They're mostly green, but they're coming on strong, and soon to have another nice flush of peppers here. And one more over are our stripeys. And unfortunately, down here at the garden plots, there are so many gardeners that we have a lot of disease issues. And if a plant is vulnerable to diseases, usually you'll end up with disease problems down here. It's really hard to avoid. And the sugar rush varieties have always had this problem with pepper spot. And you can see there on that leaf. And this is kind of just covering the plant. It affects the leaves, it affects the fruits. It's really a bad thing, and it's unfortunate, but both of these plants have this disease, and it's kind of spread throughout, so we're not really expecting to get much off of these plants, unfortunately. Now with that in mind, the plants right next door, the shishitos and the scotch bonnets, have no disease issues, so it really comes down to genetics and which plants are vulnerable to these problems. So that just goes to show how important seed selection and variety selection can be when it comes to choosing which plants you're going to grow in your area. Figure out what's prevalent, what's most likely to infect your plants, and plant varieties that are known to resist those diseases. Some other really interesting plants we have, this is the tabasco. We have never grown tabasco before, but here we have a beautiful plant with lots of little upward pointing pods. This is a capsicum frutescens species plant, commonly known for Tabasco sauce. They use this pepper to make Tabasco, and it's loaded with peppers. It's a very large plant with tiny pods, but it's just got tons of them, and it's one of the taller plants in our garden. I also wanted to show you these 2 plants behind the Tabasco here. These were actually supposed to be King Star white Thai peppers, but they accidentally crossed with something last year. We saved seeds from our white Thai plant last year, and we have 2 totally different plants that were supposed to be white Thais. They're new hybrids, and one of them tastes completely different. It tastes like a chinense, the other tastes like an annuum, but both of them are huge. The biggest plants by far that we have in this garden plot. I don't know if this is gonna do it justice, but I'll try to show you this plant. It's just loaded with peppers. They're just monstrous, and they're ripening from purple to red and white, kind of like the King Star white Thai, but they have a different flavor, a different shape, and even a different growth pattern. The white Thai is a very small plant, and these are massive, like I said. And over here, these start off green, again, coming from the same seed source, and they just go to red. They do have a little bit of purpling on them, so it's hard to tell what this may have crossed with, but a pretty cool hybrid result. I mean, look at these monstrous plants. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. By comparison, a normal sized plant right next to it, these things are just bushes filled with peppers. So I don't really know what to do. Are we gonna save the seeds and try to grow it on? I don't think so, but it's kind of cool when this kind of thing happens. This is one of my favorite cayenne varieties that we've grown. We've grown 7 varieties this year of cayenne, and this is called Joe's Long Cayenne, and you can see where it gets its name. Look at these gigantic, some of these are at least a foot long, and just beautiful hot red cayenne peppers. The plant itself is also very large. The height of the thing is probably 3.5 to 4 feet Just a huge, strong, sturdy plant. I think this is definitely going to be a front runner when it comes time to figure out which ones are our favorite. And that, by the way, will be coming soon. We're going to be taste testing and talking about each of the different cayenne plants, and we'll be doing the same thing with our jalapeno plants and different varieties that we've grown this year. Here's a good example of what happens when you provide inadequate support. You can see this is a Numex Heritage 6-4 chili variety. It's a New Mexican chili variety. You can see this gigantic plant, and this tiny little stake that we provided just wasn't enough to support it, and with a little bit of wind it was knocked over. I think last night this happened, so I'll have to bring this back up. But here you can see, I'll pick this pepper. You can see what these pods look like. Just really big New Mexico chilies. They turn red. Great for dehydrating and making powder. Also great for roasting and peeling, stuffing. Great for Mexican cooking, that sort of thing. And these are spicy. This plant here is called the calagarista. We got these seeds from Rare Seeds, and they're just starting to ripen up. Really interesting shaped pods, kind of fat little teardrop shapes that ripen to red. They start yellow and go red when they're ripe. I've tasted a couple of these, very sweet, kind of like a jalapeno, but a good amount of heat as well. They have pretty thick walls too, so they're good for stuffing, making little hors d'oeuvres, poppers, that sort of thing. Now I'm in the chinense corner, and I just picked a Jay's Peach Ghost Scorpion. One of the coolest chinense varieties in my opinion. Just these awesome ghost-like peppers that are super gnarly, super hot, really tasty as well. And you can get the seeds pretty easily now. It's pretty common. We only planted a few chinense varieties just because we know that with just a few plants you get more than enough peppers to make lots of hot sauce and powders to last you through the year. A little bit goes a long way with these types of peppers. Another chinense variety behind it is the dorsetnaga orange. I love yellow super hots. They have a great flavor, and this plant has a really cool growth pattern. It's low and wide. See, it's probably only 1.5 feet tall, but it's probably 3.5, 4 feet wide. Really interesting. Love how that's growing, how it's looking over there. And this one here is just a standard red habanero. Delicious, delicious pods. I couldn't give this more accolades. This thing is just amazing. Gigantic habaneros and delicious, sweet, fruity flavor. Very hot for a habanero, probably on the higher side for habaneros, but this has been an all-star so far this season. So I can't show you everything, but this is the plot in its entirety. You can see most of our plants from this angle. Almost all peppers, some weeds, and a couple of tomatoes, which haven't been doing super well here just because of all the disease issues that you run into, blight and septoria leaf spot and all that. It's all here, unfortunately. These are the Sunrise Bumblebee tomatoes. They have sort of striped green and dark green, and they ripen to sort of an orangey yellow color. These are delicious. This plant has done pretty well, but it's not nearly as prolific as it could be, just again because it's come down with some disease issues. But hey, that's a pretty cool cluster of tomatoes I'll be taking home today. So that's all for now. I'm gonna harvest probably a few pounds of peppers today and take them home and figure out what to do with them. Let us know what other content you might want to see going into the harvest months. What are you doing with your peppers? So I'm always curious how people are using their harvests and new things that we can try. So let me know in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time.